G'day everyone. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to set the casting brake on your overhead or baitcaster reel. Rightio folks, now this is a question that I get asked from time to time. What's the best way to set the casting brake? Now I'm going to come a bit closer so I can show you. If you have a look on the side of my reel here, you'll see there's quite a few different features. This big star point here, that's the drag. I don't want to adjust the drag. This little knob at the back here, if I loosen and tighten that, well that is the casting brake. I can adjust that and loosen that to set the tension on the brake for casting lures. Now, I'll step back into frame. At the moment, I've got a number 2 stump jumper on this reel, on this rod, because I was fishing over at Boozy Creek last week and catching some yellow belly. I went over a few days later and tried fishing it with lures and didn't do any good, but the little green number 2 stump jumper is a great yellow belly lure. Now, the best way to have it set is so that the lure just falls freely like that. I don't know whether you can see that on the frame, so I'll come in this way. If I push the button down, the casting button at the back of the rod here, the back of the reel, and I just push it now, I'll let it fall. It falls freely under its own weight. Did you see that? I'll push the button down. It's falling freely under its own weight. That is about ideal. If you have it set too loose, if I wind this casting brake back a little bit so that it free falls a lot better, like that, bang, I get an overspool, a little bit of a bird nest. That overspool is just the beginnings of a bird nest. If I have it too loose, straight down, now I've got a little bit of an overrun that I've got to pull out and fix up. If I have it too tight, I will sacrifice my casting distance when I go to cast. I've just tightened it up there. That's disengaged and the lure is barely falling under its own weight. That's too tight. So the optimal setting to have it on is just so that it just falls freely, but not over freely. You want it to be able to fall freely like that and stop when the lure hits the ground. I want the spool to stop spinning. That's perfect. That will maximize your casting distance while also preventing you from getting an overrun if the lure comes to a sudden stop. Now today, I'm not sure whether you can tell or not, but it's quite a windy day. If I have my casting brake too loose and I cast into the wind will push back on my reel, on my lure, slow the momentum down of the lure, which will mean the spool in my reel will be turning faster than what the line's coming off, and I will get an overrun. So particularly when you're casting on windy days, especially into the wind, you want to have it that little bit tighter. Now inside these reels is a brake system. Some of the more experienced anglers will tell you it's a good idea to take the brakes, the side plate of the reel off and take the brake weights off. A lot of more experienced anglers will do that. Some reels have 5, some have 6 brake weights. Some will take them all off and just leave 2, so they've got minimal braking. I don't recommend this, and for what it's worth, I never touch them. I have in the past, and what I found was it caused me too many problems when I was casting. Out of the factory is the best way to have it set, in my opinion, and just rely on that brake weight. Now, I'm going to put a heavier lure on. I'm just going to hook it up to this other lure just to show you what I would do if I was changing from this number 2 stump jumper to a great big, say, a wake snake. I've got this really big predator wake snake. It's quite heavy. I'm just going to dangle it on the number 2 stump. No, before I do, we'll make sure the stump jumper is set right. How's that set for the stump jumper? Is that going to free fall? I could probably tighten it up a whiny little bit so it doesn't fall so easily. That's about perfect. That's free falling really well. Let's add some weight to it and see what happens. Right, now I've got the big Coolabung wake snake with the same settings that were ideal for the number 2 stump jumper. Let's see what happens with the extra weight. Wow, bang, straight to the ground, and look, I've got a really big overrun. Now, just letting it free fall to the ground like that, the overrun is not too bad. But when you're casting with a lot of force and a lot of momentum, and the lure hits the water and you haven't got your thumb on the spool, or it hits a bit of wind, or it hits a leaf or something, you will have huge problems. I've got huge problems now. I've just caught the cable from my microphone. I'm actually using a different microphone for this to allow me to step back from the camera, and also because it's windy and the on-camera mic or even the Rode mic I put on top picks up a lot of noise. And also this magnificent, this place looks absolutely beautiful, check it out. But with the microphone on top of the camera, it will pick up all that noise. So anyway, I want to set this now. I'm going to stand back even further. I want to set that so that it doesn't free fall like that. So I've got to tighten the casting brake. How's that? That's too tight, it's not falling. I'll back it off a little bit. Still too tight, back it off a little bit more. Too loose. Tighten it a little bit. That's about right. It's just starting to fall under its own weight. Look at that. Perfect. That is the perfect setting to set your casting brake on an overhead or baitcaster type reel. Rightio, folks. So that is the ideal way to set your casting brake. You want it just enough so that the lure will free fall but not plummet. If it doesn't fall, you won't cast far enough. You won't get tangles, but you won't cast very far. If it falls too fast, you'll have a lot of casting distance, that anything will interrupt your momentum. The wind, a branch, a leaf, the lure hitting the water, and you're not timing it right when you put your thumb on the spool. Rightio, now because I'm expecting a few comments to ask what rod and reel I'm using, I'm just quickly going to tell you. It's a Shimano Curado 6.3-to-1 200 sized baitcaster reel. I've been using those Curados for a few years now and I really like them. It's a Venom 6 kilogram baitcaster rod. This is my main Murray cod setup, but I do use it for yellow belly as well. Fantastic rod and reel combo.